I wanted to talk about how to approach working with gouache in a flat color design. We want flat, opaque color. We do not want transparent color. The brushes are the number 10 and the number 2. This is actually slightly larger. It's a number 3. You will use the number 2 to outline, and you can use the number 10 to fill the shape. So I've got some color mixed up here. This is going to be in the background. Remember, the background needs to be cool and it needs to be slightly neutralized. It can be high key or low key. So I've already got some painted shapes here. So what I'm going to do is, with the smaller brush, I'm going to come in and outline. So you see I'm going for flat color. I'm turning this around. And the reason I'm turning it around is so that I can come into the already painted edge from a position of strength, and I'm not having to do this type of thing. So you can see I'm just controlling the color on the brush. This is a fairly small shape, so I'm just going to do the whole thing with the smaller brush rather than trying to bring in the number 10. But I'm approaching the edges first, and that's the main thing you need to know. You should also notice that I have drawn the 8x10 panel and the design on a larger sheet, and that gives me handling room. If you cut out the 8x10 and then paint it, you're going to have a major mess on your hands. So trim to size after you've finished everything. I've got that little tiny little area in there. I'm going to come in with the very tip of the small brush. You can also, as you paint, shape your brush. So you see what I'm doing here. I've got a fairly flat and broader surface, and here it's very thin. So it's almost like a nib pen, and that will allow me to get into the corners. And then as it dries, you can see if there's any unpainted little areas that you can go back and fix. I'm going to come back in with the larger brush because that's a larger area and it would be really tedious to do it with the number 2, so I'm going to do it with the number 10 and get it done fairly quickly. And if I've already outlined, I don't have to be that concerned with the edges. The size of the area that you're painting is going to be what determines the brush you use. Smaller areas, more detailed areas, tight corners, things like that, you will use the number 2. Larger areas, the number 10. Okay, now so I have this whole background area painted in with the blue-green. Because I need to sink these darker leaves into the background, I do need to lighten them. So what I need to do is go in on top with a lighter color. And you can do that carefully in gouache. So this circle is on top of the gray there. You still keep the gouache the same consistency, and you do not use a heavy brush stroke, so be very light-handed with the gouache as you go back in on top. Again, I'm just being very light with the hand. In other words, not a lot of pressure on the brush, just the tip of the brush touching the surface. If you put too much pressure on your brush, it will lift the color from underneath, and you want to avoid that as much as possible. So then let that dry, and if you need to come back on top and touch it up with the same color, do so after it's dry. So that's how you cover up an already painted area using gouache. And remember, you're going to get the entire surface completed, and then you will trim to size and mount it.